Hello everyone. Hi, I'm Dr. Rashi Agarwal, MD Psychiatry, and today we are going to talk about high functioning depression. So, I get very happy when I get professionals and more people from psychiatry who are coming forward and want to talk about these issues. Make sure you check out some pages, and we are trying to build a community where psychiatrists and people who are well read in the field are trying to give as much information as they can, because there's so much misinformation spreading around that we want to give you the best of knowledge from the best of hands, so that you're not misled by whatever is floating over the internet, and you have professionals who are here and talking to you. So the topic for today is high functioning depression, and how much we have heard this term, how much it's floating around. Today we are going to take it step by step and see what's the reality behind this. So I have a very special guest today. She's Dr. Niharika Jaiswal. She's MD in psychiatry, and she has this amazing page called Brain and Mind, and also she is currently working as a psychiatrist with Emotion of Life and Good Psyche. Sorry, I'm having a little sore throat today. So let's invite our special guest today with us so that we can get started and more mental health myths. Any question regarding high functioning depression, high functioning anxiety, you can surely send them to in the comment section below. Hello, Dr. Niharika.
Hello. How are
Hi,
you?
welcome.
Thank you so much. How are you doing?
I am fine. How are you? So Sunday
I'm
evening.
fine as well. Yeah, I saw that you had gone out as well, making time for the live afterwards.
Yeah, surely. I I can't explain it to you how much happy I get when I get actual professionals to come here and discuss such matters, because I always feel there is extreme misinformation that is spreading around, and that somehow tends to spread at a faster rate than we are trying to give out actual information. And like, somewhere or the other, I think mental illnesses are being glamorized somehow, and they are being used, I think, unnecessarily, where some things they should have been taken as little bit with severity, and we are just using and throwing these terms around as and when we like it.
Definitely, I agree. Especially, anxiety and depression. Like before, all these things were not talked about, and specifically these two, anxiety and depression. Now I feel there's a lot of hype going on about it. So, like you said, glamorizing it. So, yeah, that's definitely going on.
So this is the term that I somehow came across, and then in one or two psychiatric conferences also I brought it up, that what, because somehow अगर आप कोई चीज इतनी ज्यादा सुन लेते हो ना, आपको ऐसा लगता है मेरे को नहीं पता कि ये क्या चल रहा है. So I even brought it up in one to two online conferences, that what is this? Why have we not read about it? So what is high functioning depression, and why it's not mentioned in our books?
Right. So actually, this term, even I came across it when I was going through an article actually. So even during my residency, we didn't, I mean, it's not a medical term, right? So we didn't have this as a term. We haven't studied it. And it's not in any of our manuals like the DSM or the ICD. So even I came across it through an article. And I feel this, has been growing in social media. Social media has a huge part to play where they're coming up with terms like high functioning depression, high functioning anxiety. And if you think about it, you can actually place that word high functioning in front of any mental illness, though we are seeing it more in front of anxiety and depression. But definitely, it's not a mental disorder. So that's the reason why we don't have it in our medical books. That's the reason. But it's more like a slang, it's more like a slang that's going on in social media and everything.
Yeah, completely. Because I think in most of my videos, and whenever I've seen psychiatrists talking about it, we try to emphasize on the fact that every illness is mild, moderate, and severe. That's how we have been
Right.
taught, and that is what we try to put forward. That, okay, if you're in a mild condition, you might be working in some aspects, and some aspects might be hampered. Then eventually, if unfortunately you move on to moderate and severe, you're hampering your life skills, kind of slows down, and you're not able to function properly. But once when you read things like high functioning depression, so it, I don't know, this very personal opinion, I somehow feel that takes the weight of depression. It is a serious illness, and it should be treated like one.
Right.
So just using words like this somehow I feel takes the weight off them, and you start using it so casually. And obviously we have heard people around us saying, "Oh my God, I have so much anxiety. Oh, I'm so obsessed about these things." So we have started using these as adjectives. Maybe it's somewhere it is good for spreading awareness, but still the I think जितना weight उनको मिलना चाहिए उतना weight अभी नहीं मिल पा रहा.
Right. Even I would agree because these this term is being used very casually, very easily, and I feel that this has a lot to do with again the glamorizing of the social media. Like for example, I had recently done a post on my page, sadness versus depression and stress versus anxiety. So it's really important for people to understand what is the difference between just being sad and actually being clinically depressed. And similarly, the same goes for stress versus clinical anxiety. So because people are not able to understand this clearly, and again due to the glamorizing, people are using it very casually, and I feel that it's become a trend also. It's like it's also called romanticizing mental illnesses, where it's become like some people are even doing it to fit in. Like we are seeing it's become a trend now. So I feel somewhere in this, the people who are actually having the clinical symptoms, who have a diagnosis, maybe they are left behind, because there's like a kind of like a race, I feel, especially for anxiety and depression. Like everybody feels like they are cool or something if they have anxiety and depression. So I think that's a very important thing we should keep in mind about using these terms casually. We should be very, very careful, I feel.
Yes, we as I think professionals are trying, whenever somebody around me uses these terms as an adjective, so I'm the first to jump up and say, no, you can't use them like this. So because we as obviously in our field have seen people go through a lot. हमने तो वो सिवियर वाली
Right.
कंडीशन देखी है, तो हमें पता है कि what you are saying with this, that sadness, that's not what depression is. It literally drains everything out of you. So for people who have just started awareness about mental illness, depression is a clinical illness. It is a set duration of 2 weeks. You need to have a particular set of symptoms to feel that way. And when we talk about high functioning depression, whatever I've seen on social media, it's basically they try to highlight that even though you have your depression or anxiety, anything of the both if you have, and you're still able to function very well. So
Right.
that is something contrary. It might be related to mild form of the illness where you are like trying to cope up with the illness per se. But I did some more research about it, and I found more that usually with illnesses that we have read, which are clinically recognized, like persistent depressive disorders, like disorders which go beyond these 2 weeks, like people having depression for 2 years or more. So
Right.
they have intermittent phases where they feel well for a particular duration of time, and that is somehow being misread as high functioning depression. That okay, you were not able to do this a while back, and you were depressed at
Right.
that time, so maybe you're
Previously.
functioning
Hmm.
today.
Hmm.
Have you seen something like this? And like, what is the reality associated? मतलब term आ कहाँ से रही है ऐसे नई नई निकल के?
Yeah, so I totally agree with what you said. And I've also had patients that have come to me during the periods that they feel well, and they're like, maybe I'm having high functioning depression because now I'm feeling well. So what I try to explain to them is, like you were mentioning in the case of, persistent depressive disorder, I tell them that, if you're having persistent depressive disorder, there should not be periods when you're feeling well for more than 2 months, that is without medication, of course. And of course, after you're taking medication, you will be getting better. So without medication, you should see that you should, if you're feeling well for more than 2 months, then maybe it is not PDD. So we should keep that in mind as well. So that is something I tell them. And also I have a lot of patients that come and they just clearly, the first thing they say is, doctor, I have depression, or doctor, I have an anxiety disorder. So I tell them that, first let's discuss your symptoms. Like they are very keen on just jumping to the diagnosis. They will not want to talk about the specific symptoms, and then you have to dig it out from them. They'll just come and they'll come with their own Google search, and they'll just come and tell you, I have depression, I have anxiety. Sometimes they'll specify also, I have generalized anxiety disorder, or I have PTSD. So you have to remind them, that let's please first talk about each of your individual symptoms, how long it has lasted, whether it's persistent or not. So, these kind of things, I agree, we see a lot. Even I see a lot in my practice as well.
Somewhere I think obviously when you see these things day in and day out, it is kind of gets to you that why everybody's coming and saying I have depression. But then somewhere I've started feeling that at least they know one word. So for them, every
Yeah,
mental illness is depression. So somehow now I have convinced myself whenever somebody's saying that, I'm like, it's okay, we are progressing. At least they know
right,
one
right.
illness. And especially, I would like to emphasize on this fact, people from lower socioeconomic status, people coming from rural backgrounds, they are somehow more informed because they tend to, like, I would say, believe on the doctor more or believe on the relatives more who feel that, okay, somewhere
Definitely.
something is wrong.
Yeah,
You need to see, like, दिमाग के डॉक्टर को दिखा लो अब कुछ गड़बड़ है, and they're more trusting and they come to you earlier than I would expect a person who's well informed, because again the
right.
stigma is associated more and they have more fear of the society, that they don't tend to approach a psychiatrist that easily.
Right, right, right. And I also feel like one of my own patients had told me this as well. Since they're coming from rural background and we are usually practicing in towns or, cities, they also don't have that much of a fear that, their relatives might find out, their neighbors might find out. And the person who's coming from the city or the town, they are living in the same place as we are living, and they're afraid they might run into somebody, people might find out. So this also has a bit to do with stigma, but I do feel, of course, that they do trust the doctors as well and do come earlier. Even I've noticed that pattern.
So has this happened to you, like when you sit in a multi-speciality setup where the patient is coming to you and they see somebody they know and they are gone? So this has happened to
Yeah,
me.
yeah. Yeah, it's happened to me, and in fact it's even happened with MBBS students themselves. Like when I was doing my residency, and the same students who were studying in that college doing MBBS from that college, they would always be very careful. They would look around, koi hai to nahi, koi jaan pehchan wala to nahi. And sometimes interns were posted, or even third year students were posted, and they would not want to come at that time, so they would request for a different time. So they would want to make sure that nobody sees them. So definitely, I've seen this with all kinds of patients, including the students themselves, the staff of the hospital, or even outsiders.
So we work in a multi-specialty setup, and a pediatrician, my mother is a pediatrician, so she has the chamber just adjacent to me. So this has happened to me 2 or 3 times that I'm just waiting, where has the patient gone? And I've just realized the patient has went into another chamber because they felt that they knew somebody and they should not know that I've come to see a psychiatrist.
Oh
So
my
they
God.
started complaining things like, oh, my child has stomachache, my child has a runny nose, and can you advise? And even the other doctor is confused, like, what is happening
Right,
here?
right. And ran off into the adjacent room. Yeah. I've had patients run out because the whole setup was all the rooms adjacent to each other were psychiatry related. They didn't have, adjacent rooms to run to, so they ran out.
So
And
hopefully, I
I'm
think
looking, where did the patient go?
we have to create this kind of, I think, more and more awareness around, so that I know it can be so like scary because there's so much stigma around it that it is so difficult for a patient to walk into a psychiatrist clinic. They have
Definitely,
always this
definitely.
kind of fear, कोई देख ना ले, कोई जानने वाला ना मिल जाए, मैं क्या बताऊंगा? And they very
Right.
frequently ask that अगर घर पे हमसे कोई पूछता है हमें क्या प्रॉब्लम है तो हम क्या वर्ड बोले? So sometimes even you
Right.
are skeptical about telling them that I have done this, I have told the patient that this is your diagnosis, and if you are so stigmatized about it, you go and tell people at your home that this is anxiety. Because depression has
Hmm.
such a negative connotation around them that they don't want to tell them that it's depression. So they want एक हल्का टर्म बता दो आप कुछ कि हम घर वालों को कुछ बताने के लिए हो जाए हमारे पास.
Right, right. At least I feel that we are progressing a little bit. At least people are, starting to open up to their family members, because before I had a lot of patients who would hide it completely from, their family members. So at least they are now looking for milder ways to, try to open up to them. So I guess there is some progress definitely going on.
Every baby step counts. Just happy तो मिल
Right,
रहा है उसमें
right.
खुश तो रह ही रहे. So I think so when you're hearing these terms like high functioning depression and anxiety, what can we as professionals do to stop this misinformation? And I would not like to point it out like that, but people who have not enough or similar experiences to spread this misinformation, how can we somehow somewhere can stop it. Obviously we are talking about it at such a larger level that obviously correcting people, what else we can do कि नहीं यार गलत information तो मत spread करो, हम बहुत मेहनत कर रहे हैं अच्छी information बाहर लाने के लिए.
Right. So, I think the biggest thing we can do on our part is awareness, like you said. And I think we should, in addition, like we as human beings, not just as doctors, we should try to also encourage other people not to, tag people in such kind of posts which are glamorizing, or not to share such kind of posts. This is something else that we can do besides sharing, because if these posts are not shared in the first place, and people are not tagged and they are not spread around, so this would be like we are trying to eliminate the problem at the root level, because this all of this problems is taking place, I think, because of all this sharing and this glamorizing. So if we reduce the glamorizing itself, then I think that we could try to reduce the problem. And of course, as a doctor, like you mentioned, we have to try to spread awareness. We have to teach people the difference between feeling sad, feeling depressed, versus stressed, versus actually an anxiety disorder. And we also have to teach them, it's not a good thing, it's not something to feel happy about, it's not something like, it's not like a trend that you have to show, okay, you are depressed, I am also depressed. It doesn't work that way, because people who are clinically depressed or clinically have an anxiety disorder, they wish so much that they didn't have it. They want to get rid of it. So people making it into a trend and glamorizing it causes such a negative impact on their mental health, even more than what they are already facing. So I guess these are some of the things that we can do.
And again, everything has a butterfly effect. Whatever we say to, like, I always feel, I tell this to one person, maybe they go and tell it to two people. Those two people go and tell it forward. It's a ripple effect. Everything spreads around, especially in this age of technology and social media. Everything is spreading very fast. And another interesting thing, I've just recently come across this thing. I've got people coming to me and asking me for happy pills.
For, I beg your pardon, for what?
Happy pills.
Happy pills?
Can you give me something that just makes me happy? So again, yes, that's, you have to tell them there's no medication that will stop your reaction towards similar, like particular situations. There will be moments in your life, even if you have depression currently, and if you have been treated for depression, and if you are somebody who has not had any mental illness, you will feel sad, you will feel happy. These are normal emotions of life, and they cannot be things that just make you numb, that I don't want to be sad. That's not how anything will work. You need to be like in touch with your emotions. That's very healthy.
Right. The example that you gave is so good, because if we had happy pills, I think we would take it ourselves as well, right? Who doesn't like to be happy? So when patients come to me and they use such similar terms, I'm like, please tell me where I can get them first of all. You're telling me to, give it to you. So yeah, we try to explain to them in such cases. I also try to explain to them that it's important to feel every emotion. It's not possible for any human being to feel positive all the time, and sometimes stress can be a good thing also. If we take it in such a bad way, like stress can motivate you to work hard for your goals, for your exam, for that job interview, for so many things. It can give you the courage to move abroad. So these are the things that motivate us. If we are not feeling stressed at all, we'll just be laid back and not do any of the work. So people are looking at all of these things so negatively, that no, I'm stressed, I'm depressed, and I want to feel happy all the time. That's not the way it works, and it's not good also, because we should feel all the range of emotions. They have some advantages as well. So I feel it's all a package, and we should try to feel all of it, go through all the phases that life has to offer, and it does get better, of course.
So do you also feel we as psychiatrists are working too much for psychoeducation? Because I realize कि medication लिखने वाला काम बहुत कम होता जा रहा है. Just it obviously, I understand it's so much draining when every day you are saying same thing, and that was the reason behind the page for me, that there was so much basic information to give out, and I every day felt that I can give it to a max. There is a limit to which I can talk to people in a day, and that I can give it to people around. So hence, they're using this media to spread those simple and little things around, that no, just understand some basics. ये life skills हैं, ये सीखनी पड़ेंगी.
Right. Even I feel, psychoeducation is different for each patient. Like some patients, when they come by force, or their families force them to come, or they've reached a point where they're just not able to function at all. So first we have to psychoeducate from the very beginning. We have to psychoeducate that it's the, it's a good decision you took, that you chose to come. And it's the first step, because they'll feel guilty, or they'll feel like they are weak, if they have an issue. So our psychoeducation starts from the moment they walk in the door, in many of the cases. And then, like you said, we spend so much time psychoeducating. We psychoeducate about the illness, and then the medication, the way they have to take it, the course of the illness, and the side effects. So, and then what they can expect, even about therapy, what are the options of therapy, how the combination would work better for them. And then at times we have to psychoeducate the family members as well. So I feel that we are actually spending more time psychoeducating rather than just writing prescriptions. And I think it's a good thing, because like in mental illnesses, in mental disorders, there is so much stigma, there is so much lack of awareness. So it's important, because we unfortunately do have doctors that just write the prescription and they send the patient away, and even they don't feel satisfied. Even such patients don't feel satisfied. They don't understand also what is going on, what kind of disorder they have. So it's very important to explain to the patient. And like, for example, for in the case of psychiatric medications, it's important to explain that you will not see an immediate effect, because that's what people expect, and then they'll just leave the medication. So every single thing is so important to explain. And in the case of certain medications, there can be a risk of activation in the beginning. So all of these things are so important, otherwise they lead to discontinuation of medicine. And our whole the thing that we work so hard for is just gone in a second. Patient stops the medication. So yeah, I feel psychoeducation is something we are doing, and so important.
This is, I think, one line that you very rightly mentioned, that the side effect of the medication, first of all, and secondly, that they will not work right away. This is, I was thinking for the past 2-3 days, this is something, a sentence that I should record and play it at every patient when they come in,
Right.
that these are not fever medication. You will not take them and start feeling well at night. Give them time, believe in me. And hopefully, as psychiatry residency seats are increasing, and we'll see more psychiatrists coming, so that at least we have this equalization, obviously not completely, a doctor-patient ratios, so that we don't have to rush through the OPDs. We are seeing in government
Right.
colleges, even if you want to, there is not enough time in your hands. There's only limited amount that you can do. If you have a OPD of 100 patients and 50 patients are standing outside, how much can you educate an individual?
Right, that load is so much, that disparity in the ratio. I really do hope, like you said, it decreases over time, because we are in need of so many more psychiatrists, and even psychologists for that matter. So I'm just hoping that in the future we can progressively work on reducing this gap and making the ratio better, so we can provide more and more effective mental health care.
Completely, absolutely. So just fingers crossed, and hoping that in at least in our lifetime we can see a drastic change, and we can feel
Right.
वो रेजिडेंसी के टाइम से अब तक तो बहुत ज्यादा फर्क पड़ गया.
Right.
So thank you so much for coming here and discussing and giving us your such expert opinions. And I would
Thank
love
you
to
for
have this
having
all
me.
with you, because I feel so comfortable when I talk to professionals. I'm like, अरे ये तो सब मेरे मन की बात बोल रहे हैं.
I feel definitely the same, and it was really wonderful. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so
It's
much.
just like a casual chat, it doesn't even feel like a live.
This is something that we do with our colleagues every time. क्या अरे ये क्या हो रहा है
Definitely,
यार?
yeah.
Come, I always tell them, no, don't do it on a phone call with me. Come and do it on video call, because I want to spread this
Right.
information around. And we have so much
Learn
to
from
learn.
our discussions. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Have a very lovely evening.
Thank you so much for having me. Have a good night.
Thank you. Same to you. Bye-bye.
Bye bye. Bye.